with the 30 years in Taiwan and then 20 years in US, then about 15 years in China. Now you can more or less calculate my age. And with such kind of background, so I am so excited that, to be honest, this is the first time that I met so many people from all around the world in so many different countries, even though I was been in the international business for a while. And today's especially excited for me is to share in the experience that I have that combine all the past in the business experience and my personal the practice life. So I would like to share with everyone how I see this in the past about 10 years my practice in China, and the insight I have learned from that. So about the quantum leadership for evolutionary organizations, and especially based in my experience in the past. And I have the chance, luckily, been through a couple of the great companies in 20th centuries, including IBM and the Foxconn, the Acers, and the Tencents. And all those companies are great companies. But since I have went through working with them for enough time, so I always have been through their organization transformations. And all those kind of transformation, I found, even though those are great companies, but they all have one thing in common, is they all need to go through some sort of crisis. And the crisis will trigger their transformations. One, personally, I involved in the Acer's part, in the IBM's part. And so it gave me a thought that even those are great company, they all went through this kind of crisis, and some crisis, if they didn't went through well, the company could go down, or it could be go under. So, and I found out they all have this kind of model, went through from the crisis to transformation. They all need to go through the crisis, and then they need to find a great CEO, have a great insight. For example, when in the 90s, the IBM need to find a Lugersener who is not from IBM, who have a totally fresh perspective, who can save the IBM. In the Acer side, I also went through twice of the so-called re-engineering, and one is I personally in charge of them. And it all required the leader have give a very strong insight in order to come out from the crisis, and re-engineering, and then overcome all the resistance of the organization. Because in a big company, the organization always have strong resistance to this kind of a transformation. And they survive if they're lucky. So I think the organization should not be like this. If we come to especially now we are getting to the extra VUCA times. Recently, I always when we talk about the VUCA age, I always like to act the so-called extra, because the volatility and uncertainty we have today compared to 20 years ago, 10 years ago, is going higher and higher. So in this kind of age, and go on, if the organization still need to go through this crisis-driven transformation, it's very, very dangerous. So they give me a thought about how we can solve these huge problems. And as all of us aware about this famous saying from the Albert Einstein, the problems cannot be solved at the same level of awareness that created them. And when my business practice in the last decades in China, I has been majorly in the business strategy planning and strategic transformation area. And from that, I learned, because I help many companies to do this kind of strategic transformation, and I found that a lot of good strategy, which I call the higher leverage strategy, because with a higher leverage strategy, you can work on fewer things, but create a big benefit. Especially in the last decades, when the internet coming so strongly in China, there are a lot of good strategies you can apply to make a company transform and earn a lot of benefit from them. So those higher leverage strategies do require a higher level of leadership consciousness awareness, because I experienced that I give the same good strategy, good higher leverage strategy, and maybe half of them will fail. And I go deeper to study why they are fail, and only few people can really success. And then I found out the leadership is a key when you try to apply some higher leverage strategy, because so it requires the leadership, higher leadership consciousness awareness. But on the other hand, if I found there is a higher leadership consciousness awareness, if the leadership with a higher consciousness awareness, that could work even with a simple strategy. So when I found this equation between the strategy and leadership, and I found myself, I need to devote to study how the leadership work, so I can make sure the strategy and the leadership work together and can really make the company success. So with that, it require me to go deeper on how can I find what is the root of the leadership. And I learned this first principle concept from Elon Musk. He always said, people asking him, what make you so successful? You create so many things. And he said, because I always apply to the first principle. Therefore, I was thinking, then what is the first principle of the leadership? And I found the solution. I find my answer through the quantum physics. So I found the quantum physics inspiration in the leadership and the organizations. Why is that? Because the leadership, management, organization, they all based on the foundation of that. It's a applied social science. They are all based on the psychology or the medicine or the biology. But those biology are based on the chemistry, and the chemistry are based on the physics. So that's how I also learned from the Elon Musk. If you go deep enough, you always find the first principle is in physics. Therefore, I found this solution in the physics. So I will spend a little bit time talking about the quantum physics, even though you may think quantum physics is such a complicated and difficult area, but eventually it's not. We can find only the few very important principles and then deeply can apply to our area in terms of leadership, organization, and management. Quantum physics, you can say there, we can just apply three simple basic principles. One is a wave-particle duality, which means, according to the double slit experiment, that the wave, all the material, the original part is in the wave form of energy. But when the people started observing it, the wave would transform into the particle. So this is called wave-particle duality. And then also the quantum entanglement. The quantum entanglement saying that if the two particles has been entangled together, no matter how far they are each other's, they all are entangled. So if you change one, the other one will change instantly. So through this, and the observer effect is that the observer itself, you are participating in experiments by observing the electron would transform from the wave to the particles. So with this understanding, also I found out their latest double slit experiments in the 2016. It shows that they make these double slit experiments without any scientific instrument to observe the particle. They hire the monk with 1,000 hours meditation experience, and then participate in the experiment, and then they find out even with a monk with a meditation with the intention to observe the experiment, the wave will transform into the particle. And the study even goes through far to apply this in the internet. So many people participate in this observation, and even this laboratory is in Los Angeles, and one person even through the internet participate this observation from the South Africa, and they still
Max, you guys still hear Max? No, right? He just suddenly dropped off.
Right, he dropped off.
Let me let him know. He just magically dropped off. Maybe he turned into a wave.
Somebody observed.
Somebody observed, exactly.
So Bianca,
Yes?
the book has not been translated yet, still in Chinese.
Yes, it's not translated yet. It's in simple and traditional, but not English.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, which actually makes me aware that maybe that should happen.
Did I get disconnected, right?
Yes. Are you back?
Yeah.
Okay, welcome back.
So where is the last where you got?
Very short after the double slit experiment.
And the person in South Africa.
Yeah.
Talk about the South Africa's. So it's still this one, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So this experiment really inspiring me a lot. That finally we know the observer effect. The participate this from the wave to particle is come from the human consciousness. So that inspire people saying that we all know when we're doing this social science, we all know consciousness play a very important role. Now we also know even in the physics, the very, very foundation of the materials and the particles, it all influenced by the consciousness. This picture on the corner, left bottom corner, she is the CEO of this lab. It's iOS. It's called IONS. This is the lab. And one time she came to Shanghai and we share a speech to explain how this works. And from this experiment, now they start developing a lot of so-called quantum medicine, the quantum healing, quantum treatments, so on and so forth. If you're interested, you can contact me later and I can share more information about that. So with this, now I conclude, I starting also combine together with how the quantum theory is supporting scientifically of the so-called manifesting. Because so-called the law of attraction and manifesting, in the past we all think about is our a lot of people's personal experience. Now we can see how these experiments supporting this, and we realize that it suggests that the consciousness would lead in some information when we have a thought, right? And that information also carrying the energy because it will come through the wave. The wave is the form of the energy. And also the energy will transform the material to realize what our the material worlds that we all can see. So these 3 steps, it really give us a very now as much clearer steps of the how start from the consciousness into the reality. So based on this, I started applying this quantum leadership into the real world. So basically the 3 steps is the consciousness lead the information, carrying the energy, and then transform into the realities. So with this, I see, sorry, I forgot to put English in the corner is the thinking and the thought, and then the outer word is the language and the behaviors. So the traditional management or the leadership only talking about the thinking and the thought, how thinking and the thought and the perspective would change the language and the behavior. But in the quantum leadership, we would need to go to the higher level of consciousness. So we found out the consciousness energy would impact or guiding the thinking and the thoughts. And then the thinking and thought would lead in our language and the behavior. So with this one more tier, go deeper, and we found the higher level of awareness of the leader would require. But this would create a very high leverage of the effects. Because the consciousness energy is the intermediate between the heart and the brain. So in the past, most of our training are in the brain, but when we go down to the conscious energy, we would go down to the heart, and then we found the interaction between these two, and that created a very good effect of that. The Max Planck is so-called the father of the physics, quantum physics. He has the equation of the energy and the frequency. So from here, we will know how the relationship between the frequency and the energy. So then we know the higher frequency would have a higher energy. So we start applying the map of consciousness energy level from the Dr. David Hawkins. With this map, now we can easily apply into the management world, because in the management, people always like to have a measurement, have the standards, have the way to observe, things like that. So we start applying this in the quantum leadership. And so we found out there is the experiment also supporting in the quantum leadership. We call it high frequency resonance. Maybe you have seen this kind of video that one people with a higher frequency voice and more close to the glass and then break the glass. And this high frequency resonance, if we apply into the leadership part, let's say we go back to this map, we will see there is the so-called high frequency energy with all the go up to upper arrows going. It would force us to go a higher level. But on the other hand, if you are in the low frequency of the consciousness energy, you have the pressure to go lower and lower. And so you feel is the resistance, you feel is the stress. And when you are in the higher frequency, you feel comfort, you feel a motivation to be a better place, to be a better person. So with this, we starting apply this high frequency resonance into our quantum leadership developments. And we find out in the leadership, you also, if we map into this consciousness level, we found if you are in the low frequency energy, you would like in a situation like a swirl. So when you are leader, if you feel stress, you feel fearness, and then you would have the internal pressure like a swirl to bring you down. Starting from the pride, 175, you get anger into the 150, and then you get the eager into the 125, so on and so forth. And if you can get into the so-called courage 200, then you have the like a great walls protection that you would be able to protect yourself from the negative or the lower frequency. And a better leader, if you can bring yourself to the higher frequency, then you can work like a tornado. In the tornado, inside of a tornado, you have a very peaceful mind, but the outside you are very powerful because you can influence other people's. If you have a chance to look at the video when Mother Teresa stand in the Nobel Prize speech, before he walk in, the whole session is a little bit vibration and noisy, but when she go in, everybody will get quiet, and that was kind of effect. This kind of the consciousness energy can really impact in the people and influence without the language. So we take this as a core theory of quantum leadership, the high frequency resonance, and with this we have been able to develop this quantum leadership executive program for thousands of the executive in China. So the definition of the quantum leadership is with the perspective of the holistic connectedness. Through the quantum entanglement, we know we all are connected in a certain way. So with the perspective of the holistic connectedness, being the source of a high frequency to inspire people's self-initiation and the growth to working toward to the common purpose. And that is how we define that. So Bianca, maybe we can pause a little bit here.
Yes.
And see how you see so far.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. I love that you picked that cue up for me, because we actually have quite a few like live comments and like responses and reactions from the chat window, and we also have Antonio who's raising his hand. So before we go to Antonio, I just wanted to like as a moderator let you know where I think some of the curiosity now is. So basically I've seen a few comments that do find it very fascinating in terms of how you have combined an understanding of quantum physics with leadership. And truth be told, I think a lot of people still find the logical jump a bit fast and have taken it with a lot of humor. To read one comment by Otti. So he's asking if like my consciousness translates into physical frequency of energy of particles and then magically connects the heart with the brain. So I think maybe you wanna maybe also after hearing Antonio's question, maybe we can hear them together. Like maybe explain a little bit how you practically actually use this framework, or like whether in your own leadership practices or support the leaders that go through your like leadership program. Like how do you actually support them in their leadership development? Like and yeah, how does that actually look like practically, and how does that support the holistic leadership we always talk about? So I think that's definitely a question that's very alive in the room. And if you don't mind, I want to also hear Antonio's question before passing it back to you, Max.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let me answer the first question. I did your question first.
You want to respond first? Okay, then sorry, Antonio.
That's okay. That's okay. No worries.
Oh, okay. Oh, so let me give an example so people can understand how this can work in the real management work. So let's say we have a case of the one employee, and he make a mistake. So make the company may lose that 10,000 US dollar or 100,000 US dollar. So then how the leader would treat this case? Okay, if the leader is in the pride 175, then he will see the employee is useless, employee is very lousy. I mean, we should fire him. And if the people in front of him, he may even get into the more anger to the anger 150 and yell at him. But on the other hand, if he can be aware about his own consciousness energy level, let's say go to the courage 200, then he will start aware that, oh, he made a mistake. It's not individually, it's a whole system in terms of the process, in terms of training, in terms of the supporting structures. Therefore, even though the mistake is already taken, but if we can take this chance to see how we can improve our organization or the management process, then we may benefit from this. So if you go to the so-called willingness 310, then he will go deeper and thinking about, oh, this eventually is the good opportunity for us to improve our internal process. And this guy, he has the attitude of he also feel guilty, but he is not intend to do this, to make this mistake. So with a higher level of the consciousness level, then the leader will take a different attitude and a different perspective of how these affects. And then he will treat differently. And then the whole effect will be very different. One could be you fire the people, and then the other people will see, oh, if you make a mistake, you may get fired. And then nobody will willing to go any one step further to make some try or try to make something a difference. And then the whole organization will go becoming more passive. So this is how the leader's consciousness energy would impact the employee, impact the organizational, the cultural, as well as the customer's relationship. So just give this example. And then I think with this, now I can answer Antonio's questions.
Hello, Mr. Wang. Thank you very much for the presentation. It's fascinating. I agree with the statement that Bianca said on the other attendees. It's a fascinating topic. My question is, Mr. Hong, you mentioned that you have trained thousands of people in China, and I'd like to hear a little bit your thoughts about your success cases and also challenges in training Western managers, because unfortunately, as you know, in the Western side of the world, leadership entails a lot of ego, and in order to achieve a higher level of frequency, you have to kill the ego. So tell us a little bit about, or at least to suppress the ego. Tell us, if you could, please tell us a little bit about your success stories in the Western leadership, as well as challenges. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Yes, you are right. The ego part is the main obstacle of this quantum leadership. If you can go to if you look at this chart, the what's so-called the fear 100 to the pride 175, this level we call is the ego range. This range is the ego range. People in this range, especially the leader, normally they were successful. So the pride 175 is the default levels. So the most challenge in terms of developing this kind of quantum leadership is how we can move the people's awareness from the pride 175 to the courage 200, and that is the most critical part. And we develop certain theory and a certain way and technique to help them easily transfer from the pride 175 to the courage 200. And we may not have enough time to go through that, but we share the same experience. But in China, in Chinese culture, there are some good cultural background to give us some foundation. One is the Taoism. In the Taoism, and also in the Buddhism. In these two philosophy, the people tend to be encouraged that you need to look your own self inside in order to be a better person. So in Chinese, we call 戒事练心. So you look at yourself inside and then evaluate yourself and then find out if you have some lower levels, the low frequency, the bug, and if you are willing to change it and you become the better person, people give you more respect. And many leaders do like that. They just didn't know enough how to do it, especially if they were successful. I usually call the Pride 175 is the low energy plateau, because the successful leader normally can live there forever if there is no proper training or the awareness about that. So successful case, for instance, we have one company whose both leader are very good Buddhist practitioner in the Buddhism. So when they hear about how this can help them apply their Buddhism practice into their business world, they are very excited. And they realize that what the Buddhism teaching them can easily map into in this high frequency conscious level. For instance, the love 500 is in the Buddhism called compassion. The compassion, and they were trying to develop their own compassion, but without very successful. And when they learn that this can help them to practice their compassion, they are very eager to do it. So with that organization, the chairman and the CEO, they both went through the leadership program, and then they bring about 20 management team went through the quantum leadership program. And then after that, they apply the entire organization change from a traditional hierarchical organization. The CEO was working for GE in China, so she is very orange in terms of the management concept. But when I was her executive coach, so when through the coaching, I make her aware about all their management philosophy in the past is based on the Pride 175. And she realized that, yes, I was totally based on this Pride 175. And tell me if there is a way I can go over that, become the Courage 200, or even become the Love 500. And after 2 years of the practice and the coaching, and also we make her whole management team with the quantum leadership training. Now she is very happy. She said, and she now practiced her Buddhism in the organization, and her organization become a happy organization, as well as she can be released almost 50% of her time from the daily management, because the organization become the quantum organization.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, Max, I need to check in with you because we still have 15, 60 minutes left. You want to finish your part on quantum organizations and Chinese practice, or you want to take, because we actually have a lot of questions coming in. But my guess is like the audience probably also wants to hear at least a little bit on your quantum organization practice, right? So
Okay.
how
So
would you like
maybe
to
I
use your
just
time?
do a little bit more on the quantum organization, and then we come back for the Q&A.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Mhm.
So with this, basically in the past like 7 years, I went through this. I have several books being published. Unfortunately, there's no English yet. One is in Hong Kong. It's called Quantum Leadership, Awakening Your Inner Giant. This the English version is a Hong Kong version, and in Taiwan, the book is called the non-authority inference. I saw today there's a book called the lead without
Leading without authority. Yeah.
leading without
Like
authority.
our keynote
I
speaker.
say what
Yes.
is interesting that I always found that when I think about something new, and in the English there's one similar concept. So I published both books, and has been selling very well in Taiwan. And I also went through as a part of the member to founding the annual forum of the quantum management. Has been over 6 years. Also, I am also teaching in the Hong Kong University the quantum leadership as an official program for the graduate class, and has been developed thousands of the business leaders and through the quantum leadership programs and my sharing. And very interesting is that many of our students, their benefit, they learn from the quantum leadership not only in the business, and the first beneficial are their families, and they all found that after they change, the first beneficial is their husband and wife, and so they are very happy about that. And then also have been helped the tens of organizations in the learning about the quantum organization, and also adapting the quantum organization transformation. And because I found both of the leaders evolution and the organizational evolution, they all need to start from an awakening. And in the individuals, is the leaders awakening. In the organization, you also require the leaders awakening. So that is a key points, and that answer my original question that why the strategy doesn't work in some organizations. So the quantum leadership awakening before the quantum organization evolutions. That's my conclusion. So I reject a couple of many of the requests if their leader are not willing to go through the quantum leadership development programs. So then I would not involve in their organizational transformation. And we have been developed this program, and the quantum organization, they all come with a 4 high. 4 high. We all can say it in English as a 4 high. It's a high agility because it's a self-management, so it's very agile. And it's high happiness. We always found that the quantum organization, the people are much happier than before. And it's also high effectiveness, because the people very quickly can find a solution without going through the hierarchy. And also it's a high leverage. When I say the high leverage means that we have the organization, the number of employees versus the total people involved in the organizational missions. One organization I support in through the quantum organization is the China Coaching Federation, and that organization has been working for 5 years, with only like 5 volunteers when I participate. And after only 1 year of applying the quantum organization, the number of the volunteers become like 12 times, like 60 people. and now it's growing to the near 100 people. So the quantum organization create this high leverage. You attract a lot of outside people participate in their corporate missions. So after all this experience, then I conclude how we can benefit from this difference between the East and West, also between the traditional and the quantum practice. One is all the leader should accept and respect the difference. So there is no right or wrong. The orange organization doesn't mean it's wrong. It just may not be as effective as effective as the teal or the quantum organization for the futures. And the second is the learning and the reason behind the difference. So we think only apply the practice is not enough. We need to learn as like a first principle to understand why the difference make. And the third is to adapt the different organization style into the different situation. For instance, in a manufacturing organization, which in China there are a lot, you may not apply teal as like a service organization. In a research and development versus operational organizations. The number 4 is embrace the diversity and the changes. So we view and treat the environmental and the people diversity and the changes as normal and design the system to embrace them. And then the last but not the least is to enhance the multicultural capability. The social culture and the corporate culture are interrelated. You cannot just apply. In the past, the global company tend to have one standard corporate culture and try to apply to the world. And normally they found it doesn't work in China. So you see many of the global company, they don't work successfully in China because they don't really respect this social culture and they integrate the social culture and the corporate culture together. So we think in the future, the one global standard may not as effective as in the organizational development from the east across west. Okay, let me stop here so we can have a chance to chat more with everyone.
Yeah, awesome. We still have about 8 to 10 minutes till the party starts. But I think that will still give us enough time for what I will try to do is I will synthesize a few of the questions. So so far we have had one question I remember from earlier who was I think generally everyone is quite fascinated by how you although there are still questions remaining about the logical links between the quantum physics to consciousness and then to leadership, but I think your examples are also very very kind of carry a lot of power in themselves. So there have also been some questions around when you connect this whole frequency idea, how can one then, for example, both on one hand, which I think is the definition of leadership, become the kind of person who promotes or embodies more positive frequency and then positively influence the collective, and also the other way around, how can you make sure to not be negatively influenced by your environment? So that was one question we had. And we also had a question about how is it practically, what does it practically look like? I think this is more about being also very practical. Our emotions and the frequencies you mentioned, how are they connected? What does it look like when you're trying to support leaders in practice? I think that's the other question. And
Bianca, I couldn't answer so many questions at one time.
Okay, then just these two
Okay.
in one. These two are pretty much one. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So let me answer and then we can go further. Yeah, excuse, and I know this so-called logical jump. If you can give me 3 days, and I will make sure you not only can understand the entire logic are very well connected, but also you can learn how to do it by yourself. And so the to answer that, how this frequency and then the conscious level and how it applied. I think the basic foundation, the one important part is the heart and the brain. Because most of us were educated all on the brain education, right? We learn the knowledge and we think, and then we react. And in the quantum leadership development, we mainly initially very much focus on how you develop your heart awareness. You start sense about your heart. You start think about your emotion. You start be aware about your inner sight. And and that part, I think in the normal or the traditional executive development or the management school doesn't work much on that. And we work a lot on that. We said people had a 4 CPU. And our typical education is only focused on 1 CPU. No matter you talk about left brain or the right brain, we talk about on the brain. But we say there are another 3 CPU. One is the body. The body has a wisdom. And then the second is a heart. Our heart has a wisdom. And then also the soul. So the program was developed by developing your 4 CPU work together coherently. I think that is the key.
Yes, and what about the environmental question? Like, how do you influence the collective and not be influenced by it?
So environmental influence, yeah, I think it's very normal. Many students said that I was with high frequency energy in the class, and then when I go back to the office, and then just in 1 hour, I go back to the original. And so that was one thing need to be developed. We call the high-speed awareness. High-speed awareness. People, I think we talk about awareness a lot, but when we talk about awareness development, we need to learn from, I think the best way is to learn from the yogi or learn from the monk. That in the Buddhism or the Taoism, we have a certain way of technique of teaching how you can develop the high frequency of awareness. For example, in the Buddhism, we talk about the moment. We talk about the Dangsha. I don't know. The Dangsha means is now and here. I think the book of the power of now talk a lot about that. But you read the book and you love that state, but it's very hard to know how to get into that state. And that state, it requires the high-speed awareness. And that's also how we develop. When we develop the leadership, we teach them how to develop the high-speed awareness. Because in the Dangsha, we talk about the 3600 of the seconds. Just 3600%秒. So it's very, very fast in terms of our mind, how our mind works. So we need to have the high-speed awareness so we can aware fast enough. So when the negative energy comes to your body, you get influenced and you're aware right away. And so you can tune your frequency right away. Instead of you get influenced and then you go down and then you feel frustrated. It's too late. And so that it requires the high-speed awareness. Did I answer questions? You mute.
I'm on mute. Yeah, I said
Okay.
cool. I think you answered really well. Yeah, and I see people smiling and nodding. So I think that was a very
I think that is a part of the Eastern's benefit, because that part in our culture we see very normal, but from the West, I mean, you may need to have a more understanding and more development on that.
Yeah, I think this is also my first time hearing Max like share in English, and I think you would all agree that he did a wonderful job. He was worried his English wouldn't be good enough, so I think also just thank you for that, to dare to move out of your comfort zone It was really explained beautifully, and I think was a really good mix between this East and Western kind of thinking, like really good blend and integration. And yeah, and we are actually at time, and so just to, I think, to take things to a close, like I do want to squeeze in the last question because it's very simple to answer. Alia was asking if your framework was developed with awareness, knowing about Dana Zohar's work on quantum leadership, and also about Norman Wolf, the living organization. And so you do, right?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. I know we had
At the living
conversations on
organization,
that.
yes.
Yeah, so this should definitely be more of a global conversation. And so Max,
Yeah.
like if you can with one sentence maybe sum up what you actually received or will take away again from sharing and exchanging with everyone today, what would it be? And if you could share a kind of a wish from your heart, as we have learned the heart is very powerful in quantum leadership, like what would it be to everyone? It really, it's our last round of session.
Okay. Yeah. I would share with one. I think everyone as an individual, everyone, your biggest waste is you you only develop your brain without developing the other 3 CPU. And that is, I think, I would give it as a gift for everyone, starting aware that you have a 4 CPU in your life, in your not only body, in your life. And then the second is in the organization, is the biggest waste in the organization is also you are undermine what the people's potential if you are fully develop their other CPU, give them a happier environment, and give them a higher frequency environment. You will see the potential is amazing. And so that is the biggest waste I think we both individual and the organization have in the current world because of all the past education limitation.
Cool. And I noticed I can only ask one question. What do you take with yourself?
Sorry?
What will you take with you? Like, what is your gift that you will take with you?
Oh, okay. I'm very excited, and also especially from all the questions and the endorsement or the I would say the agreements from our the Western friends. And really, this is my first time. In the past, I in the business world, but in the quantum leadership and organizational development area, that I all developed in China. So
this was a debut.
Yes.
Awesome, lovely.
And so I'm surprised that everybody can get my points and then agree with me. And I'm also like to offer, if there's a chance and the people or there's a space that we can talk more, and I'm willing to
there
spend.
Is spatial chat. People will hang out, and the closing session is starting. So I think maybe we can like see if people want to hang out in spatial chat later. Yeah. Yes. And yeah. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Maybe see you guys like after the music session, spatial chat or something. Max will be there, right? I will send you the link. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, I will. Yeah. Thank you, Bianca, and thank you, everybody. And yeah, hope see you someday in the East.
Yes, yes. I see you all at the
Bye-bye.
closing ceremony. Max, come join the party.
Thank you.